ATF Director Dettelbach has done a 180-degree turn from his Senate confirmation hearing where he promised to be a fair regulator. He's now saying he wants an assault weapons ban. Sound familiar?
With respect to the AR-15, I support a ban as has been presented in a Senate bill.
Hi, I'm Ben, and you're watching the Minuteman Moment. Before we get into the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends to help us defeat YouTube's algorithm. Now, ATF Director Dettelbach was recently interviewed at Harvard. During the interview, Caroline Light, the Director of Undergraduate Studies in Women, Gender, and Sexuality at Harvard, asked the ATF chiefs what his gun control wish list would be. Director Dettelbach answered that he'd like to revive the federal prohibition on assault weapons, which expired in 2004.
Yes. What's on sort of your wish list?
My wish list.
Yes.
I think I've talked about things that I think were on my wish list, but I think that it would be helpful if we had universal background checks in this country. I think that's something that seems to make some sense. The president has repeatedly called for that. I've said publicly I think it's a good idea, and I do. The president has also said, and I agree, that we ought to consider and actually reinstate a ban on certain types of assault weapons.
The so-called assault weapons that Dettelbach refers to are modern self-defense rifles in common use that 1 in 20 Americans own. This is a drastic change from Dettelbach's nomination hearing, where he promised to be a fair regulator and to only use the tools that Congress gave him. These words earned him his nominations from holdout like Senator Angus King of Maine and West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, especially after the extremely controversial nomination of David Chipman, the previous nominee from the Biden administration for ATF Director. For those of you who are unaware, Chipman is currently a board member at Giffords, one of the largest gun control groups in the US. He was also previously a senior advisor at Michael Bloomberg's gun control group, Everytown for Gun Safety, as well. Not to mention, he was also an ATF agent and involved as a case agent during Waco. Senator King was credited with torpedoing David Chipman's nomination because of Chipman's hardline stance on gun control. Dettelbach, on the other hand, was seen as a law enforcement agent and with a background as a U.S. attorney. It's clear to see that Director Dettelbach is a gun control advocate in the vein of David Chipman based on this recent interview. In fact, no confirmed ATF director has ever advocated for an assault weapons ban until now. This is unsurprising, as the Biden administration recently announced an Office of Gun Violence Prevention, its sole purpose being to cozy up the gun control lobby with a direct link to the ATF. For proof of this, look no further than the Office of Gun Violence Prevention's Deputy Director, Robert Wilcox. Wilcox was the Senior Director of Federal Affairs for the Michael Bloomberg gun control organization, Everytown for Gun Safety, before going to work directly for the White House in their newly created office. But back to the ATF Director. Interestingly as well, in Dettelbach's interview was his attempt to characterize a GOA-backed overturn of an egregious gun control policy by the Department of Veterans Affairs as somehow related to the recent mass shootings in Lewiston, Maine.
Before that, just a few hours before that actually, the United States Senate voted to pass a measure which the goal of the measure was to lower barriers for veterans who had been found to be incompetent to maintain their rights to keep and possess firearms. That's what happened just a couple hours before that massacre.
Dettelbach suggested that the GOA-backed policy lowered barriers to gun ownership for those found to be mentally incompetent. This is the furthest thing from the truth. In reality, this provision reversed a sinister policy by the VA, which added veterans to a prohibited persons list in the National Instant Criminal Background Check system if they used a fiduciary to manage their finances. Over 250,000 veterans were disarmed because of this egregious policy. And if you need any more evidence that Dettelbach isn't working as an unbiased regulator, ATF is currently working to implement universal background checks, or how we like to call them, universal registration checks, without any congressional direction. The rule itself is up for public comment currently. We need our members to let ATF know that you oppose this rule by leaving a public comment. Check out the link in the description to use our pre-written comment to make your voice heard easily. Gun Owners of America proudly stands in opposition to ATF and Director Dettelbach in the defense of law-abiding gun owners' Second Amendment rights. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of GOA's latest fights for your rights.